Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. It's on the air off the presses, back live here after a week's vacation. You can call in because we got a radio guy here on the program today, 436-ME-TV, option 11. Back with our live broadcast here on Me TV in just a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
All right, back here on the program live on Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno on this Monday morning. It's on the air off the presses. So glad you are here. It's a live broadcast. Last week we were on tape, everyone on vacation, and so we're glad to be back with you. That means you can call in at 436-ME-TV option 11. That also means that Thomas Casagrande, 2020 Optometrics, he is our sponsor today here on the broadcast. A couple of programming notes for later in the week. Live shows all week long, by the way. Tomorrow we have the executive director of the Youth for Christ. He'll be here. It's a first-time guest for him, first appearance in the studio on this program, Connect with Me. Then on Wednesday, we've got Doug Vagum. Thursday, we'll talk about Social Security disability. How many of you are on SSI? That's right. So we'll talk about that on Thursday with an expert, an attorney who deals with that. How easy is it to get? If you're injured on the job and you're disabled and you can't work, is it an easy thing to just hire an attorney, go into court, and get your benefits? Maybe not, my friends. On Friday, Peter Nazaridian is going to be here, the resident family therapist. For now, we got a live broadcast on the air off the presses, Monday through Friday, live at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it goes until 11. It's a call-in program at 436-ME-TV option 11. It's Comcast Cable TV. Channel 375, 43.6, 13.1 over-the-air broadcast with a digital television antenna. The replay, as usual, comes, and you know it by now. The time is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The station, 13.6 U2. 8 o'clock tonight comes the other replay at 4.6 Biz TV. And if you'd like, you can watch us on YouTube any time of day or night. The focus of the program today is I think we're going to talk about not your viewing habits, but your listening habits. Yes, your listening habits. And I'm talking about how often do you listen to the radio? And if you do listen to the radio, is it AM? Is it FM? I almost said PM, but I meant to say FM, okay? You get kind of confused when you say AM, PM, AM, FM. Do you listen to music? Do you listen to talk radio? The oldest station in Fresno by far is KMJ. They went on the air back in 1922, and KMJ was first owned by who? The San Joaquin Light and Power Corporation. Then McClatchy took over, the newspaper McClatchy, that's right, and now it's Cumulus. And you know, Radio City is located over there at Shaw and Palm. Now, this is the 38th oldest station in America. We're not only going to talk about KMJ today, we'll talk about the radio, I think the landscape. What's the landscape right now in radio in Fresno? Things are changing. Our experts in the house today, we'll talk to him. KMJ, though, 50,000 watts. They call it the blowtorch. You can get it in Sacramento. You can get it on the coast. Maybe the most listened to over-the-air broadcast of radio in this market over the course of, say, the last 3 decades has been Ray Appleton of KMJ. He started way back in 1987. It's the day the stock market crashed, that Black Monday you might recall back in 1987. At the same time, Ray Appleton is disliked by many because of his political stance. He's a Republican, he's a conservative, he talks about political issues. He has interviewed He's interviewed actors, he's interviewed politicians, he's interviewed average people on the street. At the same time, he is very well liked. They call it hate radio, but Ray Appleton has helped a lot of people through charity work like the SPCA. Roll it.
Okay, the specifics on how to adopt a horse from the SPCA. It's real simple, but listen carefully. and then we'll get back to the phones. Currently, there are 36 horses out here out of the 39. If you want to be a potential adopter, you can log on to the Central California SPCA Facebook to see the photos. Got it? Pick out the one you want, and then you can go to their website for an adoption application. Grace, what's the website address?
www.ccspca.com.
Okay, it's www.ccspca.com. That's the website address. And there you'll find the adoption application for a horse. All right. If you do not have internet access, you can call the horse adoption voicemail, which is area code 559-943-7722. That's 943-7722. Then the adoption process will be conducted as follows. The submission of the completed application, you can email that to Grace at ccspca.com. That's my daughter. Grace at ccspca.com. You can drop it off at the Adoption Center front desk out here at the SPCA. It's on Hughes, just off of Belmont, the other side of 99. Or you can mail it to Horse Adoption, care of the SPCA, 103 South Hughes, that's Fresno, California, 93706. And if you want to fax it, here's the number, I'll do it slowly, 559-233-1348. And if you miss all these, you can email me at the station, and I'll personally get the information to you. And then following the application approval, they're going to contact you for a time for an officer to come out.
Right now is Bob Eurich. Boy, he is an old-time radio guy. He's only 27 years old, though, by the way. He is a retired radio executive. In fact, he first started working in radio here in the city of Fresno way back in 1958. He's owned radio stations. He's a retired man right now, but he knows and can fill us in on the landscape. But your job today, if you'd like to take it up, would be to call us at 436-MeTV option 11. Do you still listen to the radio in your car, in your house? If you listen to radio, what do you listen to? How about music? How about talk radio? You know, Ray Appleton's been doing this for a long time. They call him self-serving. They call him arrogant, bombastic. How can you stand to listen to him? But there's so many people who like him. He's been around for a long time, more than 30 years he's been doing this. He is the staple in talk radio here in the city of Fresno. Like him or hate him, you know, he's kind of like the Rush Limbaugh of Fresno. You know, he's got that right-hand conservative talk radio type show, and he's, you know, I think his stance doesn't appeal to everyone, especially those on the left. 436-MeTV option 11, a little bit of a controversial show today, right? Well, you call in. And anyway, our program today is sponsored by Dr. Thomas Casagrande, 2020 Optometrics. Good to be back. Hope to hear from you in just a moment. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to Digital Channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV Guide.
Back here on the program with Bob Eurich. He's a longtime radio executive right here in the city of Fresno. As I said, he started back in the 50s when radio was kind of king of the hill at that time. No longer, though, or is it? Bob, good to have you here on the program. Welcome to Connect with Me.
Well, good to be here, John. We'll talk radio, and hopefully we'll enlighten people about some of the past and also the future.
Yeah, you know, I'd like to get into the landscape of what radio looks like today as compared to what it used to look like. We'll talk about that. We have some clips we're going to play later on in the program. But first, let's focus a little bit on talk radio. And you can't talk about radio in Fresno without talking about Bob Eurich, without talking about certain people like Ray Appleton, who we kind of featured there in the monologue. So you know Ray, you had a chance to work with him, or did he work for you?
He was at one of the radio stations I managed back in the mid-'80s, just before he went to KMJ.
And what station was that? And tell me a little bit about Ray and his personality, and what makes him such a long-time staple in this area. Why? I know he's from here.
Well, the station I'm referring to is Carm KFIG, which was owned by Weaver Broadcasting at the time that I was there, and when Ray was there. He was a disc jockey, gained a name for himself, and has grown to be one of the traditions of radio in our marketplace. When he went to KMJ, this is an editorial comment on my part, he was a Democrat in my opinion, but he followed Rush Limbaugh, and in order to keep the Republican arm of the listenership, he slowly and surely crossed over the fence and became a staunch Republican. That's how I perceive it, and maybe Ray would disagree with me, but that's how I remember it.
You think he did it for professional reasons?
Well, in radio, you live and die with ratings, and ratings are what generates the advertising revenue of a radio station, and that's what keeps you alive. So therefore, in order to keep listeners and show up in those Arbitrons at that time, or the Hooper, which used to be another rating service way back when, you have to generate numbers. And KMJ, traditionally, up until the last 4 or 5 years, has always been probably the leading station rating-wise in the Fresno market. When they lost Rush Limbaugh and Hannity and they went over to Power Talk, KMJ is still probably always in the top 2 or 3 stations in the market.
Yeah, but getting back to Appleton just for a moment, I'll talk about KMJ and why they're such a powerhouse. We know they're 50,000 watts. You can get them way up in Northern California, of course, in Sacramento. You can get them in parts of the Bay Area, the coast. Did Appleton, in your judgment, switch over to being a conservative because in 1987 or 88, rather, Rush Limbaugh went national, picked up by KMJ, and his show was actually followed Rush Limbaugh. So do you think he actually switched from being a liberal, a Democrat, to being that conservative Republican?
Well, my own honest opinion is that Limbaugh's foundation of listenership is the Republican. And if you're going to maintain that listenership, you're going to have to appeal to them. So if you go on the flip side and immediately talk about the Democratic viewpoint, I believe that a good share of the audience will go somewhere else.
Yeah,
yes.
They'll leave you, and so that's why that's probably right. He probably did. But why has KMJ stayed on top? They have slipped in the ratings. You know, here's the thing about KMJ. When I first came to Fresno, they had Fresno State sports. They had football, baseball, basketball, of course. They were the powerhouse. They had Limbaugh, of course, Ray Appleton. In the afternoon, it was kind of sporadic lineup with guys coming in and out. They've slipped, but they haven't dropped to the bottom of the barrel. Why?
Well, I believe KMJ, which, you know, people still today tell me they listen to the Fresno Bee, because McClatchy Broadcasting owned KMJ, and they marketed themselves as the Bee station. And I think with the resources of the Bee, people always felt that they would get the latest news and the breaking news because of a station aligned with the local newspaper. However, you know, in the mid-'80s, the government decided that newspapers could no longer own broadcast facilities, radio or television, and as a result, they split up situations like that, and then KMJ went to Buckley Broadcasting out of San Francisco, and the TV station, which was also KMJ TV Channel 24, went to a organization called San Joaquin Communications. So the government had a big play in KMJ. Now, as far as their maintaining listenership, the KMJ signal is the best signal in the valley. There's no doubt about it. And at night, 50,000 watts goes much a bigger area than in the daytime. There's another station in Fresno at the time that was, well, KMJ at that time was only 5,000 watts. And
What year was that?
Well, I don't remember the exact specific year, but KFRE, for example, at 940 on the dial was 50,000 watts, and they would throw out their chest and say they were the most powerful station in Fresno. Well, that was not true, because the power of a radio station, the lower you are at the bottom of the dial, like KMJ at 580, 5,000 watts at 580 will send out a larger signal than 50,000 at 940. That's just the technical aspects of the radio frequencies.
The radio band.
Right.
Okay. All right. Got to take a quick break here. 436 MeTV option 11. Talking about the landscape here in radio. We'll get into a lot more because KMJ is not the only radio station on the landscape today. There are many, many others. We do have a caller calling in. Let's take it, Bob. Well, why not? Caller, go ahead. You're live on the air with Bob Eurich, a long-time and retired radio executive, talking about KMJ, the radio landscape. What do you listen to?
This is I just discovered radio.
Okay.
And I've discovered the most wonderful station, but I didn't discover it. It's NPR.
Oh, yeah.
And I just like this morning, there was something that would be really exciting, and I can talk to my grandson about the testing of the bicycles, the cars that are running themselves now. They need to be out for the bicycles and stuff, all kinds of interesting stuff. But I'm kind of aggravated that my son-in-law, which is an engineer, and my daughter, they've been listening to this for years. But yeah, I love radio now. I couldn't hardly get out. It's on in the autumn right now.
Yeah, what do you listen to on NPR? National Public Radio.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And they told me it's all over. They keep their car radio set to that, and she told me it's always close to 80-something. And they have Science Friday, something called Science Friday. I've caught that a couple of times.
Okay.
And that's where my car is tuned into now. But you have to be careful with radio. There's some loonies out there.
But why do you like it? That's the question.
Oh, I like it because it gives me lots of information, just like them doing the test with bicycles now. The Google called down lots of asked people to come to the parking lot. They ride bikes all over. They're testing them because, you know, I can't hear you sometimes. And right now your mouth moved, but I can't hear you.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. But it's just always something. Well, I love the scientific stuff and the testing stuff. Oh, and a movie's coming out, and I heard on it. It's something to do with Iceland or Greenland, and it's Al Gore, and it's something about the testing that with climate warming.
Okay.
Human climate warming. But yeah, I love it. I just hate to get out of bed now.
All right, let me ask you a quick. Can I ask you? Can you hear me? Can I ask you a quick?
Yeah, I can hear you right now.
All right, let me ask you a quick question. One, do you ever listen to KMJ? Do you ever listen to Fresno State Sports? And if you do you know what station they're on? And do you ever listen to the Fresno Grizzlies on radio?
No, I never listen to the sports on there.
Okay.
Because I like X Sports, X Games.
All right, ma'am. Do you have a question for Bob at all?
No, I just wanted to say how excited I was that I discovered radio.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. You find, Bob, before we go to break, that a lot of people, I don't know how old that young lady was that called, but you find that a lot of people are now, just in this day and age, are discovering radio again for the first time?
No, I believe radio is as strong as it's ever been.
Really? Why is that?
Well, people are buying radios at a clip like they've never bought before, so you don't buy a radio to put it on the closet on the shelf in the closet.
They're buying radios.
They're buying radios. And the thing about radio also is in this day and age, you may not even have to buy a radio if you got a smartphone, because I could reach into my pocket, get my cell phone out and listen to a selection of what I want out of about 4,000 radio stations. It's unbelievable what's happened to the new technology. And but radio is still, I read an article just the other day that they asked in this survey if something of a major happening around the world or here in the States, as we have some of these outbreaks now just about on a daily basis, people go to radio immediately, because that's the fastest and quickest way they usually can get the latest breaking news.
Amazing. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Bob Eurich. What are your radio habits, if you have any?
I like to listen to KVPR mostly at night when I'm in bed trying to sleep. I don't usually listen to much radio. I used to at one time when they had KEZL on.
Mm-hmm. Remember that station?
I much prefer jazz over a lot of the music that's on right now.
Did you listen to KEZL when they were a smooth jazz format?
Yes, I did.
Well, that's was a good radio station. There's no doubt about it. But as that station now is talk, I believe, power talk.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm glad you still listen to KVPR. But I'm going to give you a little information here that may be a little upsetting. Is the Trump administration in their budget has declined to continue to fund public radio and the arts and things of that nature.
That's NPR, by the way.
That's right. And
well,
so
I'm not really happy about that, to be quite honest with you.
Well, not a lot of people.
And I did not vote for Mr. Trump either.
Well, that's neither here nor there, but the bottom line is that for everybody's sake, because KVAPR does a tremendous job in our local community, just as Channel 18 does on television. So I hope that attitude changes and the funding will continue, because it's a well-received and needed entity in the media.
All right. Okay.
I totally agree. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate a good call. And part of the reason they're defunding is because Republicans are in office, both the Congress, the Senate, and they have the White House. And as you know, NPR, National Public Radio, has been perceived, Bob, as leaning left. They have these left-wing views, much like, you know, KMJ has right-wing views. They say that NPR is too far to the left, and they're reporting their political views bleed into their commentary, their reporting, and everything else. Quickly comment, and we'll go to break.
Well, it's sort of like CNN on television. They're certainly the left of the scope, so to speak, but I don't really want to get into politics, and hopefully all I can say is I hope that the funding is continued, because it's a valuable source for a lot of people, and even though it might be slanted on particular things, the total good is better for all than not having it.
Okay, Bob Eurich is here. 436-MeTV, option 11. What are your radio habits right now? Do you listen to FM radio? Do you listen to AM radio? Do you listen to music, talk radio? How about NPR? I don't know. Late night radio also seems to be very popular these days. 436-MeTV, option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today. Back in just a moment.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to digital channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV guide.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Have some serious issues with the Kiss Country RV today. Luke Bryan, before he took a picture for this, forgot to shave his neck. This bothers me. Like nobody's business it bothers me.
He knew he was taking a picture.
Okay, look, come here. I want to show you something else.
I love the lips. It's great. Love the lips.
Dave, neck hair. This guy,
Charles.
neck hair. I'm done with the neck hair.
Hillary, no neck hair.
No neck hair. But
No
let me
neck
show
hair.
you the worst one of all. Come on.
Hey, look, that's our website, kanscast.com. Hey, there it is again. Oh, look at Keith.
Eric Church. I love Eric Church. He's my favorite. Neck hair. What is that? I don't get it. I'm very irritated by this whole situation, and I think something needs to be done. I'm taking a razor to this RV.
So here's the thing. We're starting a foundation called, hey, if you're going to take pictures, shave your neck, right? Jody.
What?
Jody is kissing him. You okay with the neck hair, right? She doesn't care. Hey, all the information is at kanscast.com for contests and lots of neck hair. I'm Molly Charlie. This is Jody Joe.
He's so pretty.
All right, two of the most popular, two of the most well-known radio personalities right here in the city of Fresno, Gnarly Charlie and Jody Joe. They both have been a guest on this program a couple of times over. Of course, Jody Joe, at one time, just a couple of years ago, had breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor, Jody Joe is. But Gnarly Charlie, a very funny guy, has a joke at every corner. I mean, every line that comes out of his mouth is a joke. So two of the most popular radio personalities, and right now that kind of seems to be the trend, is that if you don't do talk radio, if you're a DJ, you're a radio personality. But that's been going on for years. I mean, the guy nationally that I can think of is Howard Stern. He's a radio personality. Who else? Don Imus, nationally well known. And so we have our own radio personalities here in the city of Fresno. What makes or breaks a good radio talk show host or personality?
Well, first of all, country music is the #1 format of all radio in the country.
And that's where they work.
Right,
At a
they work for
country-
Kiss Country, which
Kiss
is
Country, a country music radio station.
93.7.
Yep.
Which is the most powerful station in the Central Valley.
Do more people listen to country music than listen to Ray Appleton, would you think?
If you add up the total, probably yes. When we put Kiss
Why
Country,
is it so popular?
country music,
Yes.
well, people
on the radio, I mean.
Well, it's storytelling. It tells a story usually of your
Of life, huh?
Yeah, your pickup truck or your rifle on the back part of the cabin, and you're out hunting quail or something, and it's basically storytelling. But country music today is a lot different than it was 20 years ago. And
How
and
so?
such. Well, they've modernized it. It's very close. There's a lot of country music that several of them cross over to contemporary radio station formats and things of that nature. We have some strong country stations here in the valley. You got Cub up in Merced. You've got Kiss Country here. You got the Wolf here. You've got K-Jug in Tulare County, which has ruled that South Valley radio market for years and years and years. But
is this nationwide now, Bob, that country music is popular on the radio? This is a nationwide...
The statement I made that country music, every year they do a survey and they put out the rankings of formats. Country music is #1. News talk still gets up there pretty close to the top. Hip hop, unfortunately, that, in my opinion, when I said that, is high up on the
Why do you say
ratings.
unfortunately?
Well, I just don't like rap music and the way they'd talk about women and things of that nature.
Okay.
And but yet again, it's a free
It's
country,
popular.
and
But country music, country radio is #1 across the board.
if you're going to start a radio station and you said to yourself, what format will I be most successful at, your better chances of that success comes with a country format.
Wow, that's amazing. I would have thought maybe that it might be talk radio just because of all the political strife that's going on across the country right now with Donald Trump in office, Donald Trump tweeting, and Donald Trump obviously making comments one way or the other about Russia and about his administration, you would think that people would want to tune into radio, talk radio, to hear the latest, but maybe country music gets them away from that.
Well, you're also missing a point as far as demographics. Adult contemporary radio, AC as it's known as, hip-hop as we discussed, country usually has a tendency to appeal to a younger demographic.
And so the country music fans that are listening to country music radio, what age group are we talking about?
1849.
Really?
Yeah, where news, for example, will cater more to a 35, 54, 35, 65.
Okay.
It's an older demographic. To illustrate a point, John, KMJ lost Rush Limbaugh and Hannity a couple years ago off of that station, and they moved to Power Talk, and everybody thought, my gosh, KMJ would fall off the edge of the table. As we've discussed earlier, they're still in the top 2 or 3 usually, where Power Talk has really not benefited to any great magnitude with the Limbaugh and Hannity format. And they've also tried to put a local talk show following those syndicated national programs, and they've had to change hosts of those particular programs many times.
Several
since.
times over.
Right.
Now, of course, they got Trevor Carey on at 3 o'clock. We'll talk about that during the course of the program. But don't forget, Power Talk 96.7, their signal doesn't go much beyond Chowchilla, where KMJ, I mean, it goes way out. We have a caller who's been very patient here, and I appreciate your patience. Go ahead, you're on with Bob Eurich. Talking about radio, country radio, talk radio. What do you listen to?
I listen to Ray and Rush, and if I want music on the radio, I listen to Kino.
All right. Why?
I don't know. My age group, probably Kino music appeals to me more. I listen to the Western radio, the Western singers sometimes, but most of their music now doesn't appeal to me.
Okay. And what kind of music do you listen to on Kino? What is it?
50s.
It's just the old music, 60s, 50s, 60s,
50s and
70s.
60s, yeah.
Yeah. And also on the weekend they have the games, so.
Right. A lot of Diana Ross and Petula Clark, right, on Kino Radio?
Yeah.
You like that, Bob?
I listen to the Western songs sometimes. Mostly if I want that, I've got CDs, and I listen to those.
Right. And so how do you listen to Ray Appleton and Rush Limbaugh? Because I think they're on at about the same time, competing
I
stations.
switch back and forth, and it's usually in the car. I did download the Rush's the pods that you podcast. I haven't looked to see if I don't know if Ray Appleton has podcast or not.
I don't know.
So I didn't look for him, but I do download Rush's podcast. So if I miss it, if I something in the whole show and I get out of the car, I can come in the house and listen to the rest of it.
Okay. All right. Do you have a question for Bob at all?
No, that's fine. I just wanted to put in a plug for them and to make sure we do listen to Rush and to Ray.
All right. No problem. And you also listen to...
I will.
Yeah.
I will tell you one more thing. When they took Radio Tradio off, I was very upset because I really liked that show.
Okay, and you know what? That's a good question for Bob. Why was Radio Tradio, I think, is on a different station. I think it's might be on Power Talk. I'm not sure, but why was that show? Why did you like that show, Radio Tradio?
Just because it was easy. If there was something you wanted to sell, you could call in. It took a while to do it, but if there's something you're to buy, you could call in. I thought it was on KMJ.
Yeah, it's not on KMJ anymore. Why did you listen to it?
Because I like to buy and sell things, and it was just interesting. Even if I didn't want to buy anything, it was interesting, and I liked the guy that was on there.
Okay, it's on another station. It's not on KMJ. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it very much. Why was that such a popular program on KMJ? It was on for years.
Well, she hit right on the point, is that it was a program where people could call in and they could sell anything they wanted to sell, and the host of it, I believe his name was Taylor, if I remember right, did a good job talking to people. They also had a program that followed that, to my recollection, on tips on how to repair automobiles. And if you had a problem with your car, explain what that problem was. And these two mechanics from one of the local repair shops would give you some indication as to how to approach the correction of that problem. You got to remember that radio becomes a personal relationship with the listener.
How is it different than TV, other than the fact television is more visual, is a visual medium, radio is not, but how is it more personal than, say, television?
Well, people just gain an attraction. They either believe in that person that's extolling their comments. It just becomes a personal thing, just like disc jockeys. You talk about people that have made a mark for themselves in country, etc. One of the all-time leading names in Fresno radio years back was Sam Schwann, who was on KYNO. And Sam, he developed one of the greatest followings of local radio in the history of our community. But we could go on, and I could reminisce and go back, but you have other things you want to talk about, so let's get on with them.
No, I want to talk about what you want to talk about. There's no question about that. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Bob Eurich. What's your question or comment today about radio?
Yes, good morning, Bob. Again, John. I I would say I disagree with you on NPR about having it leave. I wish it stayed. But as far as who pays for it, this is the big issue of this administration, and you could say maybe other administrations too, whether it's the government's. Are we supposed to cover every cotton-picking radio station, public radio station that wants to share what they have to say? I mean, this is a problem, and the reason, excuse me, and the reason why he's trying to delete it, if that's the word we're going to use, public NPR, is the deficit. Now, you could say other reasons, but that's possibly one of the reasons. And other than that, great. If people want that station, they should pay for it themselves by donations, giving. If they love it so much, let them dig down in their pockets and pay for it, not necessarily the government. And this is the problem we're running into, where the government will cover you, whether any issue comes up, the government will take care of us. And that's not true. That's a false lie. And it should be. It should not be.
So you don't think so? So wait a second.
Issues that we're running into. Bob, your turn. Go ahead.
Wait a second.
I want to hear your side of the story.
No. Hang on, caller. Don't hang up. Don't hang up.
Thank you.
Don't hang up. Are you there?
Yes, I'm right here. Yes, sir.
Just hang on. Let Bob respond to that.
Well, first of all, I didn't recommend that we should or we shouldn't. I was just making the point that the government was going to discontinue funding of public radio. My assessment of the government is we spend a lot of money on all areas of doing good for our citizens. And I just feel that if they're going to put money out for one project, they should do it in the public radio arena also. The biggest problem, and this is an editorial comment on my part, is that the funding is designed to make the facility available. The problem, as we are facing right now in our country, is that we are a big issue of fake news. My assessment of the news situation is we have too many people. There is too much media, quite honestly, in my opinion. And everybody wants to be number one with the breaking story, and half the time they don't get it right, and you never hear a retraction. But the talking heads on television are giving you their opinion and not the facts. And that's the biggest disagreement I have with today's current media situation.
Well, here's the question, and caller, I know you're still there. Should the government be funding, hang on, caller, should the government be funding Valley PBS television, NPR radio to a certain extent, they do have fundraisers. Valley PBS does have a fundraiser. You can donate your money there. You can donate your money to National Public Radio if you'd like. But is there a problem with the government funding part of either Valley PBS television or NPR radio? If there is a problem, what's that problem? Caller?
Well, I can't say, well, it's still controlled. If the government steps in, it's automatically controlled by them. And
No,
that's
it's not.
the way it is.
No, it's not.
In some ways, it is, John. It is. It is. They do have some control over it. And they'll push it until they take an inch, they want a mile.
You think that they have? You think they have control?
True.
Wait a second. Wait a second. You think they have control over content?
In some ways, they lean towards. I'll say this: they'll lean towards not conservative values. Let me put it that way. Maybe I'm being biased on that, and that's true. They're not leaning towards conservative values of marriage, of abortion, of pro-life, all these issues that we have to deal with, and they come on and they do exactly the opposite of what conservative people want or like. They don't. I don't know. I doubt if they have equal time for the other side. I mean, and they love. I mean, I love homosexuals. I don't like what they do. It's a sin. But I will welcome them in the body of Christ. But it's a sin. So that's where I'm at for when they start pouting or talking about homosexuals and supporting them as a real marriage, which is unacceptable. This is a slap in it's a slap in God's eyes. You might as well, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, no problem.
I'm on a ramp.
Thank you.
I appreciate, Bob, I appreciate you being there.
All right.
And, hey, Bob, if you ever have a chance, I would love to have doo-wop come back to the Warners.
Doo-wop.
Well,
Doo-wop.
if we live long enough, it might happen.
Yeah.
It might happen. Hey,
all right.
I'll be there in a heartbeat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hey, I want to go to a commercial break. Before we do, Bob, tell me, does the government, with Valley PBS television or NPR radio, do they have control?
I would say overall, no. They basically should be funding it from equipment, and you've got to remember
from
what
equipment side. From the equipment side, they're funding it. From perhaps the personnel side, they might be funding it to a certain extent. But do they have control over content?
the only way that the government has control over content is when somebody pulls strings to get somebody into a position, and that person that's put into that position is a backer of the person that got them there. Okay. Unfortunately, that happens in all facets of life, in my opinion. You know, you got to remember one thing, John, and I'll let you go to a break in a second here, is that the airways are owned by the public. The FCC was established not to control programming content. The FCC was designed and put into existence only from a technical standpoint to provide non-interference as stations popped up all over the country.
Okay.
And but the payback of you work for me on my campaign and I'll put you on the seat of the FCC is something that just irritates me to no end.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So Bob Eurich is here, longtime radio executive. We'll get into who's listening to FM and AM radio and what the most listened to is right now and what radio entities are in the city of Fresno. 436-MeTV option 11. Do you listen to the radio? You listen to music, talk radio, politics. What do you listen to? Dr. Thomas Casagrande watches and listens to this program. He's our sponsor today, 2020 Optometrics. Back in a moment. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
It's Easton Corbin all over the road on 93.7 Kiss Country. We are here. It is our radiothon, and we are needing 3 more people to become miracle makers by calling 353-7000, $20 donation for an entire year. And I got to tell you, we almost had to take rope out and tie up Erica. She got so excited that our next guest is being here. So,
well, yeah, I'm really excited because here's the thing. You saw him on your TV in your living room on season 10 American Idol, but you get to see him tonight at the Madera Fair.
That's it. Hey.
Welcome, Scotty.
Scotty McCready.
Right here. It's a good time.
You just got done taking a tour of this incredible hospital. So what do you think?
Oh my goodness, man! I've been to a few of them, and this is just awesome. This is a place where these kids can come, and it's not like they're coming to the hospital. It's like they're coming just hanging out. Like you see them in the playroom, you see them just kind of walking around. It's beautiful to see it. They're strong kids.
And you know, and the strength that they give everybody else. A lot of these kids end up giving their parents the strength. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it really is.
For sure.
And you met some incredible kids when you were just walking around and doing your thing, and you know they were kind of following you around like.
Yeah, they're walking out with us. They're walking out. And that's good to see. It's good to see that they can do that.
And it's amazing how fast this place filled up when you came in and sat down. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody's here wants to hang out with you. First of all, thank you for coming over here. This is really important. The Children's Hospital is really important, and we really appreciate the fact that I know you got a busy day. You're going to be at Madera, but we really appreciate the fact that you're doing this. This is really cool.
Of course, man. Wouldn't have missed it.
Yes.
Missed it for the world.
So here's what we're thinking. Since you're going to be doing a concert later tonight, what if you said thank you to anyone that became a miracle maker, like right now? When they called 353-7000, you actually got on the phone and you were like, hey, this is Scott McCreary, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, I think you could do that.
I don't do your voice as well as you do.
Oh, perfect. I mean, you could just sing the night if you'd like.
No, you don't want that.
No. Well, last song, she can clear the house off.
Yeah, they'll be running to their cars.
I can do that.
Well, yes, so thank you for coming out here. And yes, if you become a miracle maker and pledge $20 a month right now, you can.
And he's going to be standing by waiting for you to call. So he's going over the phones right now. 3 more.
That was Greg Lane of The Wolf, and Greg has been on this program too, a longtime radio personality here in the city of Fresno. He works for The Wolf, and how many years for him? Like over 30 years, got to be.
Quite a long time.
He's interviewed every pop star that I can think of in music. And he came on here to talk about some of the people that he had interviewed, from Britney Spears to, I don't know, maybe even Michael Jackson. I mean, he's interviewed so many people. It's very popular thing for these people to go out on location because it's good promotion, right, for the station?
Well, when they get out of the studio and into the community, that's really what radio is originally designed to do, is service your local hometown community. And unfortunately, in today's marketplace, areas such as Fresno are dominated by 3 or 4 corporate ownerships that owns the majority of the radio stations. And a lot of times, stations are not even programmed locally, but they're fed in by satellite. And as a result, local content is reduced to a minimum or eliminated altogether.
I'm going to give you an idea what Bob is talking about here, because you mentioned the radio market controlled by 3 entities, basically right here in the city of Fresno. And it's hard to penetrate. And those 3 are iHeartRadio, which includes Power Talk 96.7. They're located at Shaw and 41. Then you have Cumulus Radio, which owns KMJ, Radio City at Shaw and Palm. Hang on, caller, I'll get to you in a minute. And then you have John Oslin, Chris Pacheco. That includes K-Jewel, Kino Radio, I assume.
Right,
and then ESPN Radio. But isn't the Spanish market very large now in radio as well?
Well, when you list the entities there, you should have also had Lotus Communications, because they own 3 or 4 of the stations in the Fresno market. In fact, they bought from me one of my radio stations that I originally put on the air, which was 105.1. Lotus is
hang on, caller. Get to you in a moment.
One of the biggest Spanish language broadcasters in America, and they're just big time. And the Fresno market is, I believe, the 13th largest Spanish market in the United States.
Fresno is?
Fresno, the Central
and that's
Valley.
Lotus Communications. They own 3 Spanish radio stations here in the city, right?
Well, they own KGST. They own 105.1. They own... they just recently purchased KSEQ, which is licensed to Visalia, which is one of the most powerful, probably second only to KISS, as we mentioned before.
If I were to get into the radio market, the radio business of buying, you said country music on the radio is popular. Would you advise me as a consultant to purchase a country music radio station, or would it be a Spanish station? Which one would be more viable? Which one would be more productive? Which one would rake in the most money?
Well, one thing you have to take into consideration is the fact that if you have 2 or 3 country stations in the market and you say, well, I'm going to buy a country station, that's all well and good. But traditionally, there's a powerhouse country station and there are some also-rans. So therefore, if you buy the one that's second and third in numbers and listenership, you're not guaranteeing yourself any success.
What about the Spanish market?
Now, the Spanish market is unbelievable. I was talking to a car dealer the other day who told me, and he was a new car dealer, that of all the cars they sell, and I'll tell you, it was Ford. They said that 65% of all car sales that they make in the Fresno market are sold to a person with a Spanish surname.
And they probably listen to Spanish radio. On the radio, in their car or their truck.
Well, I came here today anticipating you'd ask me a lot of questions about myself in the broadcast business, and
I haven't yet, but I will.
Well, I think what it's doing, John, is going to guarantee me a return visit to this program in the future.
You want to come back?
But just a sidebar situation as far as Hispanic radio. One of the original pioneers of Spanish radio here in the Valley was a fellow named Juan Mercado.
Who is that?
Juan was a independent who bought time on KGST, for example, way back in the 50s and 60s. He was as wide as he was tall. He was a wonderful individual, but he told me a story one day, which I still believe is true today. And he said the Hispanic community is a loving family scenario, and I've seen that with my own eyes.
Yep.
And once a Spanish person, you're always a Spanish person, although he said that they lose the youngsters in the age from junior high school through high school as they get out into the Anglo community and listen to rock and roll or hip-hop as it is today.
Whatever.
But as soon as they get married and establish their family, start having kids, they revert back to their Spanish heritage. They talk Spanish in their home. They put the Spanish food on the table, and they're Hispanic from day one.
Yep.
So the bottom line is that the Spanish market here in Central California is about, I would say in the mid-50s, 55%.
All right, let's take this call here. Caller, you've been patient, and what's your question to Bob or comment?
I just wanted to say, you were saying that you wanted to find out what people listen to. I listen to 98.9. I like the soft rock there in Hanford, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then I have a question for you guys. You said that KMJ was one of the oldest stations in America, but it seems like people in the United States consider that only the United States is America. But I consider everybody who lives on the continent of North America and South America to be Americans, just like people who live in Europe or Europeans, Africa or Africans, etc. If they're not Americans, then what are they?
Okay. All right. Well, it's one of the oldest stations in the United States of America. KMJ is the 38th oldest. It went on the air in 1922. Same year, I believe, that the old Yankee Stadium was built. So about the same time period. Anyway, a little history there. Anyway, I appreciate your comment, caller, and thanks for watching the program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Getting into your background just a little bit here, I've got, and you'll come back. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and only so much time, and then we get all the calls, which is great.
My fee is reasonable.
You've owned up to 4 radio stations here in the city of Fresno. Let me name them: KIRV, KSEQ, KSLK, and that's in Fresno, and KSLK in Visalia. And so you at one time secured the rights to broadcast the Warriors, the Lakers, the San Francisco Giants, Fresno State sports, all at one time. What year was that, by the way?
Well, I did Bob Eurich Sports, Bob Eurich Enterprises from about 1972 to 80, 81.
Were those lucrative years? The Warriors, the Lakers, the Giants, Fresno State, or how was it back then?
Well, very briefly, I was involved with KIRV as my first radio station, and ended up selling my portion of it. And then I was offered a job to go into sales management at Channel 47 KJEO, and I decided I didn't want to go to work for somebody else, and I was a tremendous sports fan, more so then than I am today. And I decided to open up a sports packaging business for radio and television programming, because in Fresno, as you said earlier, the only thing that was on Fresno radio was Fresno State Sports on KMJ and the San Francisco Giants on KMJ, but other things were just not available. The Raiders
and you had
were,
Lon Simmons doing play-by-play for the Giants at one time, too, and he's a Fresno guy.
He's a native Fresnan, exactly. Yeah. But I started a sports packaging business, did it for 8 years. I was the first person to put Fresno State Athletics on television in the market on a live basis. Back in those days, however, we couldn't do football on a live basis because the NCAA had the ridiculous rule of not allowing play-by-play live other than what they controlled nationwide. And as you can tell now, that has been broken, and you can't turn on TV during the football season and have your choice of 30 particular live telecasts from the Appalachian League to whoever. But anyway, the bottom line is I did that for 8 years, and it was a good business. The media itself was my downfall, so to speak, because the media got greedy. Every time I would buy time on a station to run a particular sports package, the next year I went back for renewal, they would see the advertising list that I had in those programs, and they would up their rate to me and literally force me to say, hey, this is not worth it.
Let me ask you one final question here, because we only got a couple of minutes, and that is Learfield Sports. You may have heard of Learfield Sports. They are a broadcasting sports network. They have the rights to many universities across the country to broadcast their games on radio, like University of Alabama, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC, Fresno State with ESPN, and Chris Pacheco. All right, that's 790 a.m., I believe. Am I right about that? Or no, is that wrong? No, it's 940. It's 940. Chris Pacheco paid, or is paying about almost $500,000 a year for the Fresno State package. Can he continue to sustain that in Fresno? We got about a minute left, in your estimation.
Well, there's misfortune that fell upon Fresno State Athletics because everything they've done lately, except for the basketball team that has now had a winning record for the last 2 or 3 years, but football has been a total disaster, and football is the anchor. Football basically is designed to pay for and underwrite everything at the university. And until Fresno State turns their fortunes around, the selling of radio advertising and the Bulldog package is going to be hard sledding.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough road for him to hoe, right, I think. Bob, good to see you.
Good to see you. Glad you asked me to be here.
I'm glad you came on. The hour went by fast. You'll have to come back. I'm going to book you again, my friend.
My fee is reasonable.
More. I like talking radio, even though this is television. I love talking radio and what's going to happen with Fresno State and all the rest. And I love your history in radio. It's great. Congratulations. You had a rich history in the broadcast industry. Bob Eurich, former and retired radio executive, one of the biggies here in the city of Fresno. Back tomorrow with another guest. He is the executive director of the Youth for Christ. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban.